Hey everybody! Before we begin, spoiler alert. Now that that's out of the way, hey, welcome back to Top 10 Nerd. There are a few story arcs in the comics that the Infinity War film primarily pulls from, specifically the Infinity Gauntlet, written by Jim Starlin in 1992, and Infinity, a 2013 crossover storyline that was spearheaded by Jonathan Hickman. The former has the most obvious ties, but the latter has some connections too. Infinity occurs after Age of Ultron, and it features Thanos' Black Order. On the other hand though, the Infinity Gauntlet depicts the rise of Thanos and his collection of Infinity Gems. Now the way that the Avengers Infinity War film ends matches up pretty well with what happens in the comics, and so does the overall plot. But today we're taking a look at the differences rather than the similarities, with our list of the top 10 differences between the Avengers Infinity War film and the comics. And just another reminder before we jump into the list, there's some pretty big spoilers. We talk about some pretty major plot points. That being said, let's jump in. In at number 10, Adam Warlock. The speculation online about when Adam Warlock will make his debut in the MCU only continues to grow. The character's cocoon was seen in the post-credits scene of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but director James Gunn has been pretty tight-lipped about when he'll make his grand reveal. Adam is pretty crucial to the 1991 Infinity Gauntlet storyline, and Infinity. He was the owner of the Soul Gem. His character is the one who first learns of Thanos' threat, and he's the one who leads Earth's remaining heroes against Thanos after the Mad Titan wipes out half of the living beings in the universe. In addition to that, in the two follow-up series to Infinity Gauntlet, 1992's Infinity War and 1993's Infinity Crusade, Adam is a central character, and the war between Thanos continues to wage an Infinity War after Adam gets his hands on the gauntlet. The character's absence so far in the MCU may just be a cleaner way to tie in the events of the Infinity War comic in later films. Up next, number 9, Raxiom. Raxiom is a character that appears in Infinity Gauntlet, that Thanos has created solely for the purpose of making his true love, Death, jealous. Raxiom is meant to be the perfect companion, and pretty much looks like a female version of Thanos. She fights alongside him and against all of the heroes that Adam Warlock leads into the battle. She also kills off quite a few of our favorite heroes. When Thanos is temporarily defeated and launched into interstellar space, more on that later, Raxiom is sent with him and ends up dying, unable to survive as Thanos can. She never appears in the MCU, and it seems likely that she won't, unless she is somehow integrated into the upcoming films in order to give Thanos someone to talk to, perhaps. But still seems pretty unlikely. In our number 8 spot, missing heroes. Infinity Gauntlet features many memorable Marvel heroes that haven't made it into the MCU yet, and a lot of them die. For instance, Namor and She-Hulk, who were part of the first wave of attacks against the Mad Titan. They were a big part of the onslaught against Thanos led by Adam Warlock. They both succumbed to a space fungus that overtook their bodies after Thanos touched them. Then there's Wolverine. Despite jabbing his claws into Thanos' shoulder, is thrown to the ground, and has his adamantium bones turned into rubber. He's not the only X-Men to suffer fatally in the fight. Scott Summers, aka Cyclops, is suffocated in a clear block that imprisons his head. Outside of the X-Men, Nova also makes an appearance, and is turned into what appears to look like a bunch of Lego. Up next, number 7, the Soul Stone. In the comics, Vormir is home to the Vorms, lizard worm-like creatures, and is part of the Kree Empire, and is also not the home to the Soul Gem. By the time that Thanos goes after the Soul Gem in Infinity Gauntlet, it's in the possession of the In-Betweener, who, at the time of Thanos' possession of it, was imprisoned in the nexus of all realities. In addition to that, Red Skull's appearance on Vormir is also a creative liberty of the MCU's. The character's resurfacing as a spirit protecting the Soul Stone is brand new territory. Up next at 6, Silver Surfer. In the lead up to Infinity Gauntlet, the Silver Surfer plays a pretty huge role. You know that scene where the Hulk crash lands into Doctor Strange's sanctum? Well, in the comics, the Silver Surfer is the one who does that. In the lead up to the Infinity Gauntlet, when Silver Surfer finds out about Thanos collecting the Infinity Gems, Thanos takes his soul and locks it into the Soul Gem. In this soul world, the Silver Surfer meets Adam Warlock, who then releases his soul. Silver Surfer then heads to Earth to warn the Avengers about Thanos. He also plays a pretty large role in taking Thanos down at the end of the series, along with Doctor Strange and Warlock. The character may appear in the MCU somewhere down the line, hopefully introduced alongside Galactus. But prior to now, the rights for his character were tied up in that whole Fox Marvel debacle that was recently resolved with Disney's purchase of the rights. Up next at 5, Vision's death. In the comics, Vision doesn't have the Mind Stone on his forehead. But let's jump back for a sec. Vision is part of the onslaught of heroes who goes after Thanos when Adam Warlock leads them into battle in the comics, and he's among the many heroes who dies brutally. Similar to the film, Thanos rips out a handful of his wired insides, but rather than it being his head along with the Mind Stone, Thanos goes straight for his chest. In our number 4 spot, Ebony Maw's death. In the film, Ebony Maw is thrown into space to freeze to death by some quick thinking on Spider-Man's part, who also rids us of the villain in a very alien-inspired Easter egg. But in the 2013 Infinity storyline, Ebony Maw isn't killed. In fact, he's the only member of Thanos' Black Order that actually survives in the comics, and goes on to train the character who's the subject of our next number. And at 3, Thane. In the Infinity story arc, one of Thanos' biggest goals is to seek out his son, a child who could be a major threat for him. When he and the Black Order invade Earth, the members are also tasked in looking looking for Thanos' kid, and Ebony Maw manages to find him. He's an Inhuman named Thane, whose powers are fully exposed after he's affected, and revealed by the Terrigen Mists. Thane is the character who is responsible for defeating Thanos, and putting him, along with other members of the Black Order, into a state of living death, frozen in amber. Needless to say, this isn't how events pan out in the film. The Infinity comic doesn't involve the gems or the gauntlet. Rather, Avengers Infinity War borrows certain characters from the story arc of Infinity, but that does not include Thane. In our number 2 spot, Iron Man's death. Despite fears from fans and speculation concerning Robert Downey Jr.'s return to the MCU, Iron Man lived to see another day at the end of Infinity War, but is trapped on Titan with Nebula. Things go down a little differently in the comics though. In the Infinity Gauntlet series, Tony Stark is beheaded by Raxiom. While we don't see his death in the panels, Raxiom shows up presenting his head to her master, announcing that she has dispatched the metal-clad nuisance. He is not the only Avengers character who suffers a severe death in the comics by Thanos. That didn't end up making it to the big screen adaptation. Captain America has his neck snapped, Spider-Man is beaten to a pulp, and Thor is turned to glass and shattered. And finally, in our number 1 spot, the ending. The ending to Infinity Gauntlet in the comics doesn't end with Thanos snapping his fingers and proclaiming victory. Rather, it sort of starts with the snap. This is what prompts many of the heroes and cosmic entities to rally against him under the leadership of Adam Warlock. During their attack on Thanos, Thanos enters his astral form after he traps all of the attackers, including Mistress Death, into stasis. Believing that he's won, Nebula, who he had previously captured, uses this opportunity to steal the gauntlet from him, and sends him into interstellar space, although Doctor Strange and Adam Warlock pull him back. This is when we get that famous scene in the comics between Warlock and Thanos, where Warlock tells the Mad Titan that he looked into his soul, and saw that Thanos believed he wasn't worthy of the power all along. Thanos then works with Warlock, Strange, and Silver Surfer to trick Nebula into returning everything back to normal, as well as trick her into removing the gauntlet. All that being said, who knows how much of this will make its way into the MCU, and if the post-credit scene hinting to Captain Marvel's introduction is telling of anything, it's that the MCU will likely be using some creative liberty in how things pan out in the upcoming films. Alright, there we have it, friends. That was one hell of a long list, and there's plenty of other differences that we didn't touch on either. So if you guys want to see a part 2 of this, let us know in those comments below. As always, if you dug this video, please show some love by hitting those like, subscribe buttons, and don't forget to share it with a friend. We also have a ton of other great Infinity War and Marvel themed videos on our channel, so definitely click that playlist that's flashing on your screen. In the meantime, thanks for watching everybody. I'll catch you all in the next video.